Genesis 22. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abram and said to him, Abraham? And he said, Here I am. Then he said, This is the Lord, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I also shall tell you. Can you imagine this request, receiving this as a father? You've sent away your oldest boy, Ishmael. Now you've got the promise of the Lord and you're watching him grow up. I don't know how old Isaac was here. Verse 3. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abram lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abram said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, the lad, and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you. So that's a statement of faith. God has asked him to give his son, and he's making this declaration. So Abram took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. So there's an allusion to the cross. So Isaac is carrying the wood, which he's going to use to sacrifice him. Jesus carried the cross, which was wood, on which he was going to be sacrificed. And he, that's Abram, took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. So fire in the hand could be like whatever, the blitz, the matches, the lighter. Verse 7. But Isaac spoke to Abram his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. Then he said, Look, the fire, the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abram said, My son, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the 2 of them went together. Now what's interesting here, it could be that God himself will provide the lamb, or God himself will be the lamb. Very interesting. Verse 9. Then they came to the place of which God had told him, and Abram built an altar there and placed the wood in order, and he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Now again, I don't know how old Isaac is here, but here his dad is wrapping him up and sticking him on the braai place, so to speak, the fireplace. And Abram stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. So he was willing to do it. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. So Abram went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abram called the name of the place, The Lord Will Provide, or Jehovah Jireh. As it is said to this day, In the mountain of the Lord it shall be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abram a second time out of heaven and said, By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore, and your descendants shall possess the gates of the enemy. So God was so pleased because a connection had been made, because Abram was willing to sacrifice his son. God can now return, let's call it the favor or the act. Verse 18, In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abram returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abram dwelt at Beersheba. Now it came to pass after these things that it was told Abram, saying, Indeed, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Huz his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Chest, Hazo, Phildus, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abram's brother. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore Tiba, Ham, Tahash, and Machet. Now, what's interesting is mentioning these children that are born because they're going to have a connection later on, especially Rebecca.